Well, here we go again on another manager merry-go-round at the Mazuma theme park. To discuss the current fun and games, we have two members from the boardroom. We usually have one, but we've got both of them. It's that much of an important week. So this is ShrimpNet, the podcast of the Shrimps Trust. Welcome along to episode 15. Thank you for listening or watching. To chat about the departure of King Derek, the McMahon-Brannan caretaker package, which will presumably include a brown overall and a bucket of sawdust, as caretakers always have, or they did at school anyway. And the challenges that lay ahead. We have both our gurus from the room at the top. So thank you for joining us. James, who looks like he's dropping milk tray off, and Charlie, who looks like he's about to go or been playing golf. Welcome along, gents.
Hello.
Hi, Freez. Hi, Joel. Hi, Charlie.
And Joel's with us, obviously, because obviously me and Joel organised this for Argo, and we get to say our piece. We'll start with nothing to talk about on the field other than the games that are coming up. So I thought before we get into the, we'll use the Wrexham and the Newport game as an entree before we talk about the real issues of the week. Wrexham on Saturday, it's going to be a bit of a trial by fire, I think, Joel, because obviously they'll be smarting after that defeat at Accrington. Obviously, they've got. I looked at their squad before. They've got quite a few of our exes there. Obviously, Mullers, who's done very, very well for them. Liam McAlinden, Sam Dolby, and a centre half who always impressed me when he was at Cheltenham, Will Boyle. So it's going to be a tricky fixture, Joel.
Yeah, Sam Dolby's a great little name to throw in there as well. Quite niche for his maybe 35 minutes he might have played for us a few years.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But, no, he's doing well there, which is nice to see. But it'll be it'll be tough. But I think as Accrington showed last weekend, there is a way to get them. Obviously, Jeb Brandon's already referenced how he thinks that Accrington managed to get them with that kind of high press, which is interesting, really, because I've watched the Disney documentary as much as Derek Adams might not be a fan of it, as he's alluded to previously. I've watched it and they have quite a bit of inside footage of Phil Parkinson going about how he wants his Wrexham side to press high and get in people's faces, and it looks like they didn't. That the kind of key to kind of battling was that was just to kind of get back at them and make it tough for them. And obviously, it's a bit different when you're at home. When you're at Accrington, you're welcoming someone to the. I can't quite remember what it's called now. Is it still the Crown Ground, the Crown All Paints? I'm not too sure.
Crown Ground will do.
Yeah, Crown Ground will do. Yeah,
something stadium.
Yeah, then obviously it's a bit different when we welcome people to the Mazuma to going away to the no longer the race course. Again, I can't quite remember what it's called at the moment, ground. But
something in Welsh.
And then they just show that they can be got on at. They're not invincible. You know, they've got players, like you say, players we know, players who are, ultimately aren't perfect. That's why they're playing at League Two level, as good as they might be. And yeah, there'll be ways to get them, and it'll be a big occasion. I think Jeb Brannan's probably, I think he's come across very well in the interview he's done early today. He's a promotion winner with us from back in 2007. I think people will take to him. People already take the John McMahon, and there'll be a lot of backing, even though it's difficult circumstances that we're travelling to Wrexham under. Ultimately, I think as a club, we back the squad. We all really like the squad. We like the two men in charge on Saturday. And I think there will be an element of, as fans, I think you do realise you need to step up in these moments, and it's a bit ethereal what exact effects a fan base can have, but they are there. You can have a bit of an effect, and I'm sure it'll be about getting behind the team as best we possibly can and trying to help inspire something, really.
And looking at the away following, Charlie, we've sold over 1,000 tickets, so I think it's probably a little bit of the Hollywood effect. I was talking to people at the club, and they were saying, yeah, they've got not a disproportionate, but there seems to be quite a few ladies wanting to go, which given the Hollywood heartthrob who possibly could be there, that's not really surprising. But taking 1,000 Shrimps fan there, or over 1,000 Shrimps fans, we're going to make a noise, Charlie.
I mean, that was actually a home crowd 4 years ago, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's great to see. It's going to be a great occasion. They're not yeah, when you look at the results, they're not spanking everyone, are they? It's like 2-0, 2-1, 2-1, 2-0, 2-1,
No.
5-0. You know, and people say, "Oh, God, you're going to go up against Wrexham." We're not 2-0 at Hamburg. People are like, "Oh." You know, people think that they're crown champions.
Yeah,
We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens, obviously, but they are there to be competed against. They're doing
a lot of their, if you look at a lot of their draws, they've got draws through very, very, very late goals.
Yeah.
So that they're obviously quite fit because they've, I mean, it seems to be every time Elliot Lee gets a ball outside the box in the 92nd minute, it arrows into the corner. But fair play to them. They're paying the money. It's a long time since we've played them. I think we played them, we passed each other our first season in the league. We lost in front of, I looked at the crowd and I've forgotten it, but it was about 4,500, I think, at the race course. We lost 2-1. We were 2-0 down. And John Newby scored in about sort of the 88th minute, and we give it a go for the last 5 minutes, but we lost 2-1. And we ended up staying up quite comfortably, and they ended up getting relegated, James. So when you look at it, our paths have not crossed, but it's hardly surprising given the like you say, as Joel's alluded to, the Disney documentary, which is like completely and utterly what. That they're building a 5,500 seat stand behind what was the home terrace, which is just absolutely outrageous. So they're obviously confident they're going to do well this season, but you've got to prove it on the pitch, haven't you?
Yeah, you do. They've played well this season, and that's commensurate with being a club that's got huge resources and a big budget and a really good squad. But like zero fear in it for us. They're just another club that maybe thinks of themselves as being bigger than Morecambe, and we know exactly what happens to many of those when they face us.
Well, I sincerely hope so. I do sincerely hope so. For those who are listening to this on the way down, apparently parking's an absolute utter nightmare. So you may well have to park quite away from the ground. And I remember parking wasn't brilliant when we went in 2007, I think it was. It was our first away game. So there is apparently one away pub that will accept you, and everything else is a home pub. And they all drink, unsurprisingly, Wrexham lager, Joel. Will you be trying that out?
It's entirely possible. I don't know what might give you that impression. I mean, it's interesting like that. You say like how many fans are bringing down. I think we brought something like 800, 900 to Derby last season. And obviously this season, it sounds like we're going to be about probably above the 1,000 mark. We've got a lot of people coming down, and probably a few less people. Maybe not as quite much widespread interest for Newport on Tuesdays as we'll probably get onto in a second. But yeah, there's lots of people coming down. Obviously, I'm coming from Manchester. We've got a minibus coming down, which I have been asked to plug. There are 2 or 3, maybe, depending, more spaces. Should anybody want to hop on from Manchester?
3 spare tyres, Joel.
What's that? Sorry,
3 spare tyres.
But yeah. Hopefully, no spare tyre issues on this particular bus. We'll be keeping our fingers. I think Harry Starter probably used up all the bad luck across the whole fan base this season. Unfortunately, with that.
Yeah.
But
and
hopefully,
Terry's travel.
And Terry's travel as well. Yeah. So I think that will. Hopefully, all the bad luck was used up on the Sutton trip, and there won't be any more to go around. But yeah, it'll be a really good occasion. It sounds like it'll be a bit of a faff once you're there, getting to the right pub and getting parked up. But at the end of the day, we're all here just for the football, aren't we?
Yeah, damn right. That's what. There's games like this that you think, well, win, lose or draw, we're competing in the same league as them. We may not be on the same financial footing, but it's only 11 v 11, isn't it? When all said and done, James.
Yeah, absolutely. If my internet drops out, by the way, it's because it tells me I've got none, but I am speaking to you, so I'm not going to touch it. Yeah, absolutely. It's 11 against 11, and we do this every week in every season, and we've been doing it for years. The team's in good shape. I know that Jed and John aren't overawed by it in any way, shape, or form, and yeah, let's just go and beat another club that thinks they're bigger than us.
So moving on, an exciting Saturday in prospect, but then mouth-watering, our old Wembley enemies, Newport County at home on Tuesday night. And yet again, we come across 3 ex-players who've all played the part for us. Ryan Delaney, who obviously played a significant part in the early part of last season, where he looked like a completely different player to the player we signed the season before. Then obviously Shane McLaughlin, who I always liked as a sort of like box-to-box midfielder. He did a really good job for us. And unfortunately, the supposedly injured Aaron Wildig, who had 5-6 great seasons with us, and Aaron played a massive part in getting us promoted and was an integral part at the front of the diamond in that promotion season, Joel. So it's not going to be an easy game, because the Graham Coghlan there manages a lot of experience at this level. They've got Omar Bogle, who's a threat up front as well. So it's not much of a come down after Wrexham, is it, Newport?
No, yeah, I know they're a bit lower on the table, but they've got a decent side, as we know. Some of the players you can list off there. Ryan Delaney's captain there at the moment. He sounds like he's doing a good job there. I think Shane McLaughlin's a good example of just football. I think, more generally speaking, footballers are sometimes perfect for one manager and not so perfect for another. Obviously, he was a really great foil for Diagaraga, playing in that defensive midfield role. Maybe Diagaraga didn't quite have the kind of legs to get about as much, but then having Shane there, who could get up and down a bit, it was a good foil. But then under Derek, he didn't maybe have as important a role to play, and that's how football works sometimes. It's good to see that he's found the role at Newport now. Obviously, playing at right back instead, where he played under Wimbledon for a bit, and also on a few occasions at right wing back. So it's nice to see it working out for him there. And obviously, Aaron Wildig, still a bit sad that he left, I can't lie, but you know, he'll move on, and it'll be good to see him back at the Mazuma if he ends up travelling up, because he rightly has pretty legendary status around the club. And
Aaron didn't really want to leave, did he? I remember speaking to him, and he wasn't in Steve Robinson's team. And he made a promise to his partner that they would relocate back to nearer home. And then Derek came along and he started playing him again. But he'd already made that commitment. I remember speaking to one of them on holiday, and he rang me up and said, "I'm really sorry, I've looked to Newport. I promised my family. We've been living in Lancaster for 4 or 5 years now, and I've got to honor my promise." And he was playing brilliantly well, but he had a few injuries last season. He's been doing really well this season. And Stephen Hunt, the old Irish Reading player. He's Ryan Delaney and Shane McLaughlin's agent now, and he played in my golf day at the Belfry last month, and I was speaking about it. And he was saying how happy Ryan and Shane are at Newport now. They're fitting really well. I think the next week after that, Shane McLaughlin scored those 2 amazing goals in the FA Cup.
Yeah, that's right.
So they're unfinished business there as well, isn't there?
Yeah,
how upset we were walking out coming down Wembley out the Royal Box when we were coming down the escalator. They were so angry. They were like, "We always losing finals. We always losing finals. We always get the bad luck." And James and I were like, "Lucky."
Yeah, unlucky. Yeah. And they were unlucky on the day, but I don't care what you say. John O'Sullivan's was a penalty, but there you go. We'll close that. We'll close that one there. But it's a good one to look forward to. It's the precursor to listening to the Jeb Brannan interview tonight. Obviously, it's a precursor to the Wickham game, and he in his heart of hearts, he said, me and Macca will probably be in charge for these 2 games, and then things may well change. But we'll start, with the sort of timeline of Derek. Obviously, either of you boardroom members, just tell us how it went for you. But obviously, Malky Mackay being relieved of his duties at Ross County, and then almost immediately Derek was installed as favourite. And I read a little article online on the Saturday, and it was the Ross County chairman saying, "I have somebody in mind, and I will pay what's necessary to get him, and I will get my man." And I was like, "Oh, that could be quite interesting." And obviously by Monday morning, it was confirmed that he'd got Derek. But you can see why he's gone there. He's had brilliant success there twice. Why wouldn't he go back and give it a third go when the chairman gives the "we need you"? But so how did it pan out for the club, James or Charlie? Do you want to take it on?
Well, I mean, as is often the case with these things, it moved quite quickly. I think most of us were not looking forward to a weekend without football, but we're planning for a weekend without football, and then the weekend ended up being consumed by football. More so for Ben and for Graham and for Rod than for me and Charlie. But yeah, it's a shame, and I think we put our sort of sentiments into the statement we put out on Monday. Derek did a cracking job. We genuinely thank him for that, but in both spells. And he was doing a cracking job this season. But Ross County, they met the clause that said that he could leave. And it's a Premier League club in Scotland, and there's more certainty in terms of what's happening in the background. And I think Derek just felt that he couldn't turn it down, but he did so with real regret, and he was very sad to leave. And he did make the point that he didn't want to, and it was the uncertainty behind him that maybe had weighed heavily on him over the months before. But yeah, like I say, we wish him all the best. And these things always happen quickly, and again, there's no point once you've made a decision in these things being dragged out. So we move quickly, and we're already on with the process of finding a replacement, as we have done in the last few occasions, and we'll do that properly and do a really good job of it.
And I come to you now, Joel, because it's the irony of all ironies. Who's Ross County's game on Saturday?
I think it might be Tuesday, but yeah, it's St Mirren. So I think so. It's going to be the world's
you couldn't write it, could you?
Yeah, the world's longest boo. But no, actually no. I think a manager leaving when you're doing well, it's always going to leave a bit of a mixed taste in your mouth. You're not going to. I'm not obviously not happy that he's left. It's frustrating, but at the same time, I think, as James has already alluded to, we all know the difficulties that Derek's been working under, and we kind of understand why he's felt like he needs to take this opportunity. So it's frustrating, and it's not what I wanted to happen, but it's happened, and you just got to accept it and move on. It's one of those where I think we've seen with the last couple of managerial appointments, I think the board have got things pretty much spot on. I think, which might be a bit of a controversial view when it comes to Stephen Robinson, but objectively, he was a good appointment. After January, before when he kind of corrected some of the mistakes he'd made in the summer in terms of recruitment, I genuinely will still hand on heart say those kind of performances when we had Bordeaux and Castle first on the side were probably some of the best performances I've ever seen from a Morecambe side. And and at the end of the day, you can't really mitigate for somebody as a board. You can't really predict that somebody's going to come in and offer him, Stephen Robinson, the salary increase that he did get offered at the time. And at the same time, you can't, as a board, you can't necessarily mitigate for somebody coming in with an enticing offer like Ross County have done, and the other situations that could have been going on behind the scenes as well. So it's difficult. It leaves a bit of bad taste, but at the same time, you got to wish him the best. He's done amazing stuff, and I think with the club, he's done a good job with this summer's recruitment. We've got a really good squad in place. It's one, and even the games he's had so far this season, look at the points total we've got already. It's strong, and I think we're in a decent position. Obviously, it's concern with the 1 year contracts. At the same time, I think he's already alluded to the fact that there are some 1 year options, and on the flip side, there were a lot of difficulties that Derek had moulding the squad to how he wanted it when he came back about a year and a half ago. If a new manager comes in, he's probably not going to have that same difficulty. So it swings and roundabouts really, but we've just got to see who the new person is. Probably come most likely, I'd imagine, sometime this week rather than the head of this week. Sometime next week rather than the head of this weekend, but we'll see.
And Charlie, ideal replacements temporarily, as I said, the caretakers, Jed Bannon and John McMahon. Jed finished his playing career. Obviously, his final ever professional game was at Wembley in 2007 against Exeter City. So he's always had a place in our hearts. And he comes back sort of like 2.5 months ago and finds him and Macca in charge for at least a couple of games. And he's already said, he's thrown his hat into the ring. He'd like the job. So it's not a bad start. I was, as I alluded to at the start, and Joel's already said, he likes a high press, but he was very complimentary about the playing staff, saying he couldn't believe some of the possession stuff that we've got. So he can look upon this as if you like, a two-game interview, can't he, Charlie?
Yeah, it's a good opportunity for the guys. You know, just thinking back, I was thinking just before. I think Derek's first home game was against Newport County back in the day. I think it was because we were both staying in the Morecambe Hotel, and Kevin Ellison scored that really good goal. We passed around about 5 or 6 different players.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, interesting comparing the two matches. Because obviously Bazza and Kev were managers before that game. We've got a really we've got a really strong shortlist together. We had a really really good board meeting yesterday. When Jed's really highly rated by everyone at the club and the whole board. And wish him all the best for his interview. And may the best person win. You know, just it's hard to know what the best link is. But when we've done all the interviews, I'm sure we'll have a good idea.
And James, it's the best preparation he could ever have. It's probably a tough game at Wrexham. If he comes away with anything at that, and then we managed to beat Newport, that's going to put him pretty high on the list, isn't it? Really?
Yeah, it's nice just in the short term to have that immediate continuity, and some guys that really know the dressing room, and the players are going to follow. And just, you know, as far as the process is concerned, you know, I think we've got I think a fairly good approach, and it's down pat at Morecambe. I think, you know, you always want to look in any organisation when you're replacing a role in the building, and to see if there are options, and there are, and then you want to make sure that you're considering people outside the building as well. And I think what we do is quite quickly discount the sorts of the names that you tend to spin around the manager merry-go-round, and we're always quite impressed and not surprised, but pleased with the people who are potentially interested. And you know, it's despite any background uncertainty, it's a better and better proposition. The job at Morecambe. You know, we're just outside the playoff spots. We've got games in hand. We've got a really good, exciting young team. We've got, you know, a full month and a bit before the next window. So it could be an awful lot worse as a position. And, you know, to Joel's point about the squad, you know, whoever the manager is going to have the time to build relationships with those players that they see as having a future beyond the current season. But equally, they're going to have the ability to not carry forwards things that maybe they would have done differently, which was frustration for managers in the past. So, you know, it's not a good thing when a manager leaves you. Of course it isn't. But I do think it's important to remember that with the exception of some managers and some players who develop a really strong bond with a club and become part of that club, the vast majority of managers and players, they are around for a period of time where the rest of us who love the football club, whether it's fans or staff or board members or people who represent the trust, we're always here for the long haul, and we're lifers. So, you know, you have to expect a certain amount of turnover with managers and players, and when you do develop those special relationships that go on to develop and become something bigger, it's a wonderful thing. But you can't expect it because players and managers ultimately are paid to do a job.
I don't think it's worth adding that. Sorry, Freeze. I think it's worth adding that you know, when Jim left, we had Derek. Derek was a standout candidate, wasn't he, James? With a couple of others maybe. Then when Derek left, on different times. That was a time when I'd cancelled the family holiday because of the playoff final to my wife. We had a great holiday and spent 2 days speaking to Derek on the phone trying to stop him from leaving. When the application quality, when Stephen Robinson applied, there wasn't many comparable candidates really, because it wasn't I don't think it was seen as an exciting opportunity. But there's a lot of quality in the application, and definitely a higher volume than we had before. Do you agree, James? It shows that there's lots of people are excited about the profile and the opportunity to be the manager of Morecambe Football Club.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what, timing wise, it's good for a manager, whether they're in or out the building. And yeah, it's a great opportunity. The club has moved forward in leaps and bounds. And there's good staff, and there's a good squad, and there's good stuff happening off the pitch as well. So yeah, it's good. It's good. It's exciting in a way, because you don't want these things to happen, but quickly you turn from being disappointed to being pragmatic to actually seeing the opportunities that exist. And there's always opportunities in any change.
And looking at I'm coming to Joel now. The bookies are always. I listening to Coley's interview on Radio Lancs tonight, and they were trying to draw him on the Morecambe job, and he said basically, well, I'll always be connected with it, because the simple fact of his playing career, he said, I've still got a lot of friends there, and obviously had a great career there. But he said, Coley said, I'll just remind you that when I applied for the Notts County job, the bookies had me behind Lee Westwood, the golfer, in the odds. So I was like, yeah, that's what John Coleman thinks of the bookies odds of 5-4.
I always look at the bookies odds as well, and you know that there's a few names, whether it's another club's job, Gillingham's or whoever's, and there's a few names that are probably realistic. And then I think the bookies get bored after about 4 or 5 names, and they just have like a stock of the same people who are on the merry-go-round. You just chuck them in. And how it always entertains me that there's the same names appearing in like 5 different lists, and I don't think much thought has gone into that.
No, it always tickles me, because I always expect to see Neil Warnock there, because Neil Warnock's been up for every single job from Barcelona to Rushden and Diamonds and everywhere in between. But obviously, and I also, if you're a small child listener, I apologise for this one, but obviously the QPR player who worked out that his name was an anagram of Colin Wanker always got and they called him Colin for 3 months and he had no idea why. That always tickled me. But Joel, the usual suspects, like I say, Coley's said he's not ruled himself out, but he said there's been no contact and he's under contract, so we'll see. But I know you tweeted bring him home when there was a picture of a moose.
Yeah, that might have been after I was in Amsterdam when I found out the news about Derek. So I had a little holiday interrupted as well. Thank you very much, Derek. I had to put my phone down.
You haven't been in a coffee shop when you tweeted that, had you?
No, that was a Heineken museum. All right. No, it was, I think with the bookies odds, you got to remember, especially with markets like next Morecambe manager, as much as we have progressed as a club over the years, I think for most clubs at League 2 level, if somebody chucks 20 or 30 quid on one manager, it's going to shift the odds quite dramatically.
True.
And that doesn't just apply to us, that'll apply to most clubs at this level. So you're only reading to so much. They don't have a particular, I've worked in that industry before, and they don't have a particularly large amount of insider information. They have a few journalists and a couple of people they probably follow online and try to get tips off, but overall it's not the most reliable. A lot of it is reliant on essentially in inverted commas common sense. So you referred to Coleman already. He mentioned in his interview no smoke without fire, the fire being he's local. He's got there was a little bit of a testy episode with him and Andy Holt recently, and obviously he's our highest non-league goal scorer, and he's had a great playing career with the club, and you can kind of see why the connection gets made. Obviously, the one I alluded to was Dave Artell. I think another former player. He's got a good record at this level. He's local, good with young players as well. So they're kind of easy connections to make, but I think if you look at the odds at the moment, because there's no standout, it just shows you that the bookies have no real idea. It'll just swing on 20, 30 quid each way on depending on what somebody chucks down the candidate. So
I'll just remind everybody that the bookies tipped us to finish 20th as well.
Yeah,
so
and look at our previous couple of well, aside from Derek, I imagine Derek was probably quite high up on the managerial odds on his return, but on his initial hire and on Stephen Robinson's initial hire, they both came from absolutely nowhere. I don't think anybody had any idea we were going to hire those two managers. So you just don't know. You don't, and we don't know who's throwing their name into the hat. We don't know who they're up against in terms of the shortlist, in terms of who we'll be interviewing. So I think James kind of alluded to already. It's disappointing to lose Derek, but it is exciting to see and think about who might be taking on the project next, because there are some good things in place. We've got a good head of recruitment in Greg Strong. We've got a good squad. We've got a good backroom staff and John and Jed. So there's good stuff there to move forward.
I think at this point it would be remiss of me not to mention the Morecambe FC fans Facebook page, which has been absolutely utterly bloody hilarious all week. I've just bumped into Sven-Göran Eriksson in Lidl. He's waiting for a bungalow to become available on Westgate, and he's in.
To be fair, I've got Sven-Göran Eriksson's autograph from a Morecambe game.
Of Notts County.
Yeah, and he was director of football Notts County.
There you go. You see, so there's a connection there. But obviously, I've just seen Pep getting out of a taxi at the Midland, and that's one I liked. And then who else? Oh, there was I've just seen Wayne Rooney in Pizza Cottage on West End Road looking for a granny. I was like, I'm liking this. This is good. These are all in it, So
you never know with Pep. I mean, if City had deducted 92 points and ejected from the Premier League, then he might just be in the mix.
Only 2 of those are true, Freeze.
Sorry?
Only 2 of those are true.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. And what can I say? If Pep's listening to this now and he's listening to Jed Brannan, he'll probably have Jed Brannan as his assistant, because Pep likes a high press as well. So it's all fitting into place, Joel.
Yeah, Pep Guardiola, triangles 4-3-3, that weird positional play thing he does. Yeah, I think we've got the players for it. We've got Eli King, Jake Taylor, James McKiernan. Why not?
Yeah, let's do it. So looking at where we are now, coming to the board members, wheels in motion. As Joel's alluded to, you've done this pretty well in the past, in the recent past particularly, because when Robbo jumped ship, you moved very quickly to get Derek back involved, and that's proved to be a rather excellent appointment. We're hoping for the same sort of. You say the caliber of people applying is high. How quickly this process is going to happen? Are you just going to take your time, and then I know in the past that you've involved everybody behind the scenes, including people you wouldn't expect, but obviously Ben will be involved, and also Mick, etc., because I know that all these people play a part, don't they?
I mean, there's a huge amount of experience around the table. Rod Graham and Mick have done a cracking job. We've now got the benefit of Ben's expertise as well, which is hugely beneficial. And it's about running a process efficiently and effectively and quickly, but not hastily. There's no point in making a poor decision in haste. But we'll move as quickly as we can, and as soon as the right person is obvious to everybody, then that'll happen. You don't sit on your hands in these situations, and whoever it is, we want to give them the mandate and give them the job, and then step back and let them get on with it.
And all we can do is obviously carry on saying that I wonder if Sven's got his bungalow sorted out. That's all we can do as fans, isn't it, really, Joel? But you kind of hope. As you alluded to, the infrastructure is already there. So it's quite a handy little structure that we've got at the moment, because obviously we've got some really good young players, some cracking players on loan. And like I say, the backroom staff are all familiar with how things are working. Obviously, Barry Roach, etc. We just need the right fit. It's got to be that right Lego piece, Joel, hasn't it?
Yeah, and ideally somebody who wants to take the club on, sees the kind of foundations of a project, and I think with the youthful nature of our squad, it shows where there's a lot there that can be taken in a positive direction going into the future. So, there's you have lots of different managers out there with lots of different qualities, and I think it's going to be about finding the right fit. But going off previous appointments, and I've got a lot of faith in the board to do so. So, yeah, it's scary when this kind of thing happens, no doubt, and it's not been ideal, but at the same time, I'm kind of excited to see who comes in next and what kind of project they're looking to deliver and what kind of style they want to implant in the team, because we've seen the kind of interesting stuff that Derek's been doing, but I think you mentioned it already. What Jed Brannan alluded to in his interviews is the quality of footballer we've got the club at the moment. And I was only joking about Pep Guardiola coming in with King and McKinnon and Taylor and all those people, but they are fantastic footballers, and there's a lot you could do with them. And I'd be really interested to see, in some ways, just as a general curiosity as well, just what another manager would look to do with these players. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what kind of goes on over the next kind of week or two.
And come back to the board members. Obviously, we've still got a situation where we are still for sale. And obviously, we know there are people interested because you said there are. But I noticed, I'm not trying to put pressure on, but I noticed Carlisle have got some Yanks who are wandering into Cumbria, and I want to buy Carlisle. So are they obviously, they're in a higher division with bigger crowds and probably a better history. But how's it progressing off the field? Have we any progress? Are we still sort of doing the courtship dance?
We have actually got some people progressing, different parties progressing further than before, but we're still not near getting anything properly done. But it is moving. There are people interested. We've all been working hard to try and make sure we get some on board, and I'm sure it'll happen sooner rather than later. And working very close with Jason on it, which is positive. We spoke to Stuart Drummond with the board meeting about the academy yesterday. They've got really had about all the players they've got coming through. The off-field stuff. Everything is really, really good about the football club. We just need to try and get someone to come and invest. And it really, really is an excellent investment.
And it's really interesting you say that, because obviously my next sort of like point was that obviously we've got more youngsters coming through now. Like we've obviously got Adam Mayer, Cam Rooney, a couple of others who are knocking on the door. That will obviously play a part, hopefully, in the interview process with like what are you going to do to bring the youth through? Because obviously that could be a really, really, really fruitful, not only for the young people's career, but also for the club's bank balance. But also, presumably at interview, you'll be mentioning that you've got people involved who are interested in buying the club, James.
Yeah, absolutely. Although, again, with everybody, we'll be completely honest. And, you lay out all that's positive and all that's good, all the progress that's been made. And then you lay out the stuff that, isn't so certain. And that's the only way you ever get anybody good to take any job. It's got to be, what's in the tin has got to be what was written on the outside. Charlie makes an excellent point about the academy, though, and I think, again, having moved to a Cat 3 academy when that happened, people expect immediate results, but it takes time. And I think what Stuart and the guys in the academy have done is they've built things up and they've got the right people in at the right stage, and we are seeing real fruits from that now. Whether it's players that are picked up by the academy and developed before they come straight into the first team, like Carlos, whether it's the likes of Adam Mayer and Rooney who are now coming through, and there's real positivity on that side, which is a credit to Stuart and the academy, and then that's going to be important too. A manager who comes and really wants to engage with that, because as we found over the course of the last few years, every part of the club has got to work together. We've got to use the collaboration, the cooperation between the first team, between MFC Women, between the academy, between community, and with the trust and the fans. And we can't afford to waste any effort, can we? We're always going to be smaller, because we'll always be competing against clubs that think they're bigger. And all of these things working together is important. So a manager who really engages with the academy is important. And in that way, again, it's an opportunity to think, right, okay, well, it's a challenge, but how can we push this forwards now? Where's the forwards motion with the next manager? Because you don't ever want to be going backwards. You've always got to be progressing.
And there's well, by the time this comes out, there's a little bit of news on a possible signing.
Yeah, literally broke while we've recorded this podcast. Oscar Threlkeld, who's been in the building training with the team since the summer, has done well. He's impressed, and he's now got a deal, a short-term deal, an opportunity to prove himself and actually be part of the first team squad. And again, that's a good example of just because your manager has decided that he wants to go somewhere else, it doesn't stop decisions being made, it doesn't stop progress happening. So a signing tonight, which is good news. Another player who is a defender with real utility, can play midfield as well, played north of 150 games in League Two, I think. So yeah, a signing tonight, which is probably a bit of a surprise to people.
Yeah, exactly. That's come as a bit of a pleasant surprise, that goal. And Oscar Threlkeld, well, obviously featured quite frequently for Bradford City.
Yeah, he's an experienced player at this level. He's very versatile, which is quite handy to have. It's always good to have a couple of players in your squad who can cover a few different positions. He can play right back, he plays defensive mid, he can play centre back. So it's good to have that kind of option in your squad. Someone you can come in and do a couple of roles at the bench or filling in for people, or stake a claim for starting as well. So he's an experienced player. He's, having watched him briefly in pre-season, he's not a bad footballer. He's half decent with the ball at his feet. He knows how to defend and stuff. So yeah, I'm sure it'll be a good addition to the squad. He's clearly made a half decent impression on at least on Jeb Brannan and John McMahon since he's been training for the club.
So we come to the. Sorry,
I know we had our 3-year plan, which was obviously which didn't really come to fruition and still ongoing. But if we look at what we actually have achieved in the last 4, since that Newport County game with Derek in 2019. I think had an away game at Crawley the week before, maybe, but we couldn't really the club couldn't really have progressed much more, in the areas that it's progressed. I think it's Derek did leave, and it's a shame, but if we get the right manager now and the right appointment and keep everyone working together, it's really, really exciting time. So everyone should be really proud, from the women's, the ladies team, the academy, the trust. Everyone's come much closer together, and 1,000 fans away on Saturday,
and double the home crowd.
Yeah, exactly. It's not. I saw the social media comments about being negative, but everything's positive, and if we get this appointment right, we'll fly, I'm sure.
And just on the final, on the Derek thing, I'll come back to Joel now while he's eating his tea. We've got a situation where quite as usual, there was not necessarily a lot, but quite a few fans on social media disappointed with Derek leaving, saying, "Oh, he's dropped us in the lurch again," which I was like, I didn't believe for a minute, because obviously we know that hindsight gives us the view that Bradford approached him in the January and he didn't leave until we got us promoted. But there are quite a few disgruntled fans saying, there's no loyalty in football anymore, and I wouldn't expect it. I've said this before. If Joel, if somebody offered you 20 grand more to do the job somewhere else tomorrow, you'd go, wouldn't you?
Oh yeah, drop of a hat. Sorry.
I think with Derek Freez, he'd been going on for a long time. He knows the guys at Ross County really well. He knows the CEO's actually isn't like a CEO like Ben Sadler. Derek relationship, it's like a friendship. They're actual friends for many years. Derek was, we tried so hard to find a new owner, tried so hard to find stability, and we haven't managed to do that yet, and for many different reasons. But Derek had an opportunity for some security, clarity, and that's what he likes to work on, the way he likes to work. And I don't think once did we ever discuss in the last week that we were anti-Derek or negative against Derek's decision, because wish him all the best, and you never close the door for the future. But he's a great manager. That's in a great position, and I don't begrudge him at all. I'm sure James isn't either.
I don't. Joel?
I'm obviously not happy about it, but I get why he's done it, and I'm very, very thankful for the things that he does. Look, when when the manager leaves like this, when you've got success, it's never ideal. It's always a tricky spot to fill. And, it wasn't ideal when he left the last time, but at the same time, he left having done some really good work with the club, and he's left having done some really good work again. So, it's in many ways, this is arguably maybe almost like a more safe time to leave. I don't know. Maybe that's not quite reading the situation right, but obviously, going up to a new division last time, it was all quite hectic and a lot of players out of contract and kind of managing that transition. I think you see how well Stevenage have done. I know they've got a bit more backing financially, but you see how well they've done. I think a lot of that is ultimately keeping consistency under your previous management, and I think that would have served us really well. Going into the League One, as much as I did rate the appointment of Robbo, I think ultimately the thing that serves you best is consistency. But it happens. Like I said, it's a good squad. He's a really good squad he's put together. He's got them playing really well. He's got them gelling and connected as a team. There'll be a new manager who comes and you want him to do something slightly different, I'm sure, because that's how that's everybody's different and they'll have a different way of wanting to do things. So yeah, but ultimately he's put the players in place. There's a bit of structure in there, like we've talked about with Stuart Drummond and all those people and the away right and people who are in charge of the kind of youth set. So there's a lot of good stuff there in place, and Derek's been a really big part of that. So you know what, I didn't want to see him leave. I'm a bit gutted. At the same time, like everybody says, wish him the best, and we'll move on. And I'm excited to see who we bring in next.
And so moving on, final, we always talk about the trust. It's the first toy collection on Tuesday night against Newport. Is that right?
It is indeed, yeah. So I'm not quite sure where we're at in terms of the kind of the funding for it, because as you can imagine, over the past few days, I've been out of the country, and then everything else been catching up on has been it's been all the manager chat, which is I think you can imagine somewhat taken over the kind of discourse that everybody has been having around the club at the moment. But yeah, it's a really great scheme to be doing once again this year. If it's not practical for you to be able to bring something down on Tuesday night, there's an Amazon wish list. There's a GoFundMe page. There's all sorts set up online that the Hodgie's done really well to put up again this year. So yeah, if you can bring stuff down Tuesday night, fantastic. But if there's another way that you prefer to kind of donate, that'd be better for you, then go for it. Every donation is really, really valued.
And just a final aside, you visiting the Netherlands had nothing to do with them electing a far right prime minister today, did it?
At the end of you know what? The Canal tourboat guy, he mentioned something about it, and he mentioned that politics over there is a state. So yeah, sounds like I got that just in time, maybe.
Yeah, he sounds like the Dutch version of Nigel Farage, which I'm not. Depending what your politics are, you may think that's a good thing. Personally, I possibly think it's not. But there you go. But I had to mention it. I thought, he's been in the Netherlands. He's been I thought perhaps you being one of these techie gurus, you were one who was masterminding the Facebook campaign and getting him elected. That sort of thing.
Yeah, I'm afraid there's a bit of a leap between producing a podcast and Cambridge Analytica.
But how have we got 7 million listeners? That's what I just don't understand. Yeah. It might have been me pressing 6,999,000 times, but there you go. You got to try it. So thank you to James. Thanks to Charlie. We'll hopefully get one of you back next week when we can talk how it's going to be difficult not to appoint Jed Brannan and John McMahon as the dream team, because we've got 6 points out of 6. And who could think that Paul Mullen would deliberately smash it in his own net because he loves the Shrimps. This has been episode 15 of ShrimpNet. I hope you've enjoyed it. Join us again next week when we'll have the lowdown on what's happening on and off the field. See you then.
£10 on Appleyard Wakefield joint managers.
10 quid. No, I go back to John Coleman, what he said about bookies. No.